about this stuff, and they worry about it for good reason. I'll give you another really interesting example. So there's a bunch of startups that help you record Zoom calls and transcribe them. All of those Zoom calls then become legally discoverable because they're transcribed somewhere. And so you have VCs in Silicon Valley who will refuse to use them, and you have other firms that are all in and recording everything that happens across the board so that they can upload that into AI as context. I think it's a really great point, and one of the things that makes me wonder is companies that are willing to skirt the rules or, play fast and loose will be moving much faster over the next 2 or 3 years. And one of the reasons big incumbents struggle is because they actually do have to care about this stuff. They have stuff to protect. They don't want to be sued. They can't handle a major breach. And startups are able to just move faster given that.
So every time software stocks sell off with this, and people say, oh, they might go bargain hunting, and they say, what's cheap and what baby is being thrown out with the bathwater, a bunch of people is like, yes, they look cheap, but have you considered stock-based compensation?
Yeah.
And it turns out that these companies are not nearly as profitable once you factor this in. It was a very interesting note from Barclays, I think it was Barclays. This is very interesting. And it said, our European investors are always asking about SBC. Our American investors only ask when there's a crisis, which I think tells you something about the difference between Europeans and Americans. I thought that was a fascinating sociological observation. Tell us, how should we think about the cost? Because again, if code generation is a cost base, presumably these software companies don't need as many employees either, and they could pare back on this. So talk to us about how we're thinking about the costs inside the software company.
Great question. And certainly theoretically true, right? But aside from Elon cutting 80% of Twitter X's headcount, we really haven't seen any companies take the pill and kind of realize the benefits of that. The SBC debate has been going on for a long time. I've had it ad nauseum over the course of my career. It's a real expense. You're issuing your employees stock. They value it like cash. Many of them auto-sell it the day it vests for them. And I think what the problem that it creates for software companies is the management teams are addicted to reporting non-GAAP, which excludes the impact of SBC. And so if you are an entrepreneur who founded a software business, who's technical, hasn't really ever cared that much about the financial side, you're a product person, you may think that you've been doing a good job of being a profitable company because your CFO is telling you, well, we're at a 25% non-GAAP operating margin. That's pretty good. When the reality is you're running break even, which is a very common state of affairs. We looked at the whole universe, and the median public software company has a 5% non-GAAP net income or GAAP net income margin, which is not enough to value the companies on. And so it creates this dynamic where, yes, there's this terminal value concern, which is by far the most important thing, but there's also no floor, right? I was looking at the earnings report from Freshworks, which is a mid-market seller of customer support and IT management software. It trades at 1.5 times EV to sales. If it ran at even a 10% GAAP margin, it'd be trading at 15 times earnings, which is a pretty attractive place to be. You could get some value investors, maybe some European investors interested in buying it there, but it doesn't have material GAAP earnings. And on their earnings call, there was no real, sense of trajectory towards that. And you see